results this master plan on aging.
At the KSMO studios, we welcome you to Monday morning. It is July 29th, and we have in with us Franklin Delano Roth. He is the Democratic candidate for the primary in the 8th District of the U.S. Congress. And first off, we want to remind everybody this is a paid political ad from the Franklin Delano Roth II committee. And the treasurer is who is the treasurer?
Me.
You?
Yeah, it's the,
oh my gosh,
it's
you
the
are
tight
the treasurer.
operation.
And that is for Missouri. That's the committee to elect him. And first off, thank you again for coming in on a Monday morning. I know your travels are many.
Yeah, it's getting really busy. Well, it's been busy for the last several months, but yeah, I enjoy it though. I get to see a lot of the countryside, which I like. I mean, I grew up very rural and I like the country. I mean, I like driving the back roads, and I mean the hilly, windy roads are just fun to drive.
And that's where you find some of the most interesting things in the Ozarks. It really is, because it's things you don't normally see, and most people stay on the interstates anymore or the major highways, and they really miss out, don't they?
Yeah. You don't see the those small towns. Most of them get bypassed, and that's what I mean. I think that's what's unique about each community. Is their little hometowns, and just like what I grew up. I grew up close to a town of 500 people, but when I was a kid, it was an absolute hub of activity because we were a farming community.
Sure.
And we had, I remember 3 grocery stores growing up, had a couple of taverns, had a couple of restaurants, a pool hall, insurance offices, a bank, I mean, a feed mill. I mean, you name it. And the town, there's nothing there anymore. I mean, there are no businesses left.
And the 8th District is comprised of a whole bunch of these towns, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very rural for the most part. I mean, you have your little hubs of activity. Jefferson County, which is where I live, obviously coming from just south of St. Louis, you have Arnold and Imperial and Herculaneum, Festus, and Crystal City. It's a highly populated area through there. Then you have Cape, and you have your towns in the Boot Heel, Poplar Bluff, Salem, Rolla, West Plains. But it's 28 counties, so it's a big district. Like I said, runs south of St. Louis to the Boot Heel, across Arkansas to almost to Branson, and up to Rolla. So. Yeah, a lot of counties.
Well, I've driven many of those roads towards the east, and you come across those little towns in the middle of nowhere, like Bismarck and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And were all key ingredients in years gone past. Graniteville, you've got those. You've got Ironton, Pilot, Knob. I mean, you've got a whole just line of different small towns. But those people's influence should be just as important as somebody in a major city, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's vote. One person, one vote. Every vote counts, and I think people in rural areas tend to get a little disenfranchised, especially in state or federal elections, because they think, well, the cities are going to, they're going to rule because they have all the people and all that. But every vote counts, and that's one of the things about this country is you have that right, and that's what this country was founded on and what it still runs on. You have the right to vote for the type of government that you have.
And that primary is coming up real quick.
A week from tomorrow, yeah. I can't believe it's here already.
Well, you had a little meet and greet here in Salem last Thursday. How did that go? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was really good. We had several people, more than what we anticipated. And, it's just another opportunity to get out and talk to people about things that you're really concerned with. And in my case, one of the things I really hit on is health care. I think we need a single-payer Medicare for all system. I mean, we have a for-profit healthcare system, and it leaves too many people behind. We're the only developed country that bankrupts citizens over healthcare costs. We have over 100 million people in this country now carrying some form of medical debt. And when I get out and I talk in front of people, you can't believe how many people will raise their hand that, hey, I'm one of those people that's carrying debt, or I've been through bankruptcy, or, our healthcare in this country is, there's a young boy in Oregon County in Alton that needs a skin cancer treatment, and insurance won't pay for it. So he has a GoFundMe page, and they're having benefits. And there's a little girl in Jefferson County where I live. She has jars in the local bank and local businesses trying to collect money for this. I mean, that in the richest nation in the world, that simply shouldn't be tolerated.
And I kind of wonder how the insurance companies and the government health market have gotten so disenfranchised. I mean, this is all supposed to work together, and Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not working at all together because I hear more and more of these same insurance companies disallow deductions or disallow covering this or this or that, or just in the case of this young man or young lady with skin cancer. Why won't they give them the drug? Let's see if it saves them. Isn't that worth the price?
Not to a company that's based on profits.
But I meant, shouldn't their moral obligation, ethically, shouldn't they be providing it? Isn't that why you bought this insurance to begin with?
Right, but that's not the way it works because our health care is driven by profits first, care second. I was just reading an article last week. A major manufacturer of a inhaler for asthma quit making the drug, and it's no longer available. Well, the alternative that people were switching to, the insurance companies don't want to cover it, I'm sure, because it's more expensive. So people are going without their inhalers. Both my boys had asthma growing up. They tended to grow out of it as they got to be adults. Still there, but not the problem it is when they're young.
Sure.
And I just think I had to drive my oldest son when I found out he had asthma. He had climbed up in a truck and was playing in a bunch of wheat. And and I'd drive him to Evansville, Indiana. The hospital was closest, about 25 miles away. And to listen to him in the back seat, struggling to breathe, I mean, it's just, you can imagine what's racing through your mind and trying to get to the hospital. And then for a company to say, well, we're not going to cover that basically because we can't make enough money on it. And that's where we're at with healthcare. And like I said, it doesn't have to be that way. We're the only developed nation that doesn't have this. All the other countries make it work. The other countries are not rushing for our system of healthcare. That tells you something.
No, that's true.
And I have spoken to people from all over the world. There's a lady in Cape Girardeau that lived in Toronto, Canada with her husband. They had jobs there. She developed breast cancer. Her dad was stationed at Camp Lejeune. Okay, so he got cancer and died from the water problems there. She got breast cancer, no history of it in her family. But anyway, she had to have a double mastectomy. Then she had the reconstructive surgery to make her normal and make her whole again. And it was all paid for. She didn't have any problems. It was all paid. The medicine, everything was paid. The reconstructive surgery was paid for. Since she has moved back to St. Genevieve or to Cape Girardeau, it's been one constant battle after another to get the insurance to pay for the things they should pay for, to keep up with her medicine, her checkups, all this stuff. It's a constant battle. She owes, I forget how many thousands of dollars because insurance has refused to pay. But that's healthcare in this country. We try to plug in fits, with Medicaid. Well, some of the politicians don't want to fund that. So, it just gets people left out. So we end up with hospitals that close because they can't get paid. There have been 6 closed in this district in the last several years. Another one's just hanging on in Hayti. But as they cut the Medicaid benefits back, because most of the people go through there are on Medicaid or Medicare or both.
Oh, yeah.
92% in the case of the hospital in Hayti. And if they can't get reimbursed for those bills, what do? They go out of business. So people go from there. They have to drive all the way to Cape or somewhere in Arkansas or whatever. It shouldn't be that way.
No, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed sooner than later. And I think people keep, we'll get to it. No, it needs to be addressed now.
Right. Well, it's, and like if you're self-employed, like you're farmers. I was a farmer. I had to buy my own insurance. And it's not a group plan, so it's not all that good anyway. No. You get high deductibles, and all those people say, well, you want a tax. Well, we pay 1.45% for Medicare. How much more would we need just to cover that 20% that we let private insurance? Why do we need private insurance on 20%? It's just a way to keep the insurance companies' toes in the water. But we could have a tax that would cover everything, and instead of fighting insurance companies, you would walk into a hospital or a doctor's office or a pharmacy or your dentist or your optometrist, hand them a card, they swipe the card, and you're good to go. No sitting on the phone for an hour or two at a time trying to get a bill covered that should be covered because you're paying for insurance. None of that. You wouldn't have any of that. And to me, it would just be a much simpler, much better system.
Do you think the insurance companies take advantage of people not being able to read these insurance policies because they put so much verbiage into them, and we'll cover this, and the language they use, it really makes, you're not sure if you're covered or not. And then when you call, then they'll say, well, you can see right in your policy that it says you're not covered. And I'm looking at my policy. I said, no, it says I am covered. It says, I can remember getting a colonoscopy, and they tried to say it wasn't covered. I said, it says right in here, this covers colonoscopy. Well, you got to look further down the policy where there's an exemption to that. I said, no, I don't. That's in the main part of the policy. That's what's covered. I finally convinced them. They paid for it. But it took, like you're saying,
hours.
An hour on the phone. And I finally said, well, let me talk to your supervisor. Keep going up the chain. And then you're sitting on hold. People don't have that kind of time, number one. Number two, they shouldn't have to go through that aggravation.
And insurance companies know that. They know people get frustrated. They're just going to quit and end up paying the bill or whatever they do. But I was a victim of that, too. This is back in the early 90s when I was farming. I wasn't married at the time. And this guy came by selling insurance and said, we're trying to group farmers together to create a group plan. Okay, this is what it covered. And me, like a lot of other people, somebody tells you something, you expect them to be telling you the truth.
That's right.
So, I didn't read through every page of the policy. And, I said, well, what happens if I decide to get married and, my wife gets pregnant and we have a child? Oh, yeah, that's all covered. It's all covered. So... End up in another year or two, I ended up getting married, and we decided to have a child. And come to find out, they didn't cover that. And, I told him, I called and said, your man sat right here in my dining room, and I specifically asked that point, and he said yes, and now you're telling me it's not covered. I said, no, so you should have read the policy. See, but that's what they do.
Sure.
And, it's just, like I said, it doesn't have to be that way. But when you have a system that's based on profits, you're not going to get the best care because that's not the foremost in their mind.
And also, some insurance companies have been notorious for changing the policy after it's been signed and instituted. They say they send a letter of revision. Well, that's not what I signed. But then they'll say you have 30 days to opt out or 60 days to get different coverage. All right, so I go back to my father who bought home health or what I will call basically nursing home insurance at that time. Yeah, at that time they didn't call it long-term care. And he bought this back in the 1990s, and then they updated it in 2010. And it was to cover all his home health care. If he went into a home, if he went into a semi-retirement home, if he went into assisted living, it was to pay for this care. And it was all in the policy. I read the policy. And then they said they sent a letter in 2017, because when I called him for the policy, he said, "Oh yeah, he's covered." He goes, "Oh wait," and I hear "Oh wait" on it. I said, "What do you mean, oh wait?" And they go, "Well, we sent a letter." I said, "I don't have any letter, and I've been keeping track since my mom passed of everything my father's got. I have no letter from you guys changing this policy." Well, we removed all that home health care. Well, what do you mean you removed it? That's not. I'm still paying the same premium.
Yeah, funny how that works.
It's $5,800 a year for somebody who's 90. That doesn't make any sense. And here they say, well, we removed that.
Well, like I said, in our healthcare system, profits come first before anything else.
Exactly. All right, so I don't want you to take up all your time on healthcare. What else has been on your mind in the last week or so?
Oh, everything. I mean, people are concerned about taxes and I favor going back to a tax system like we had before Ronald Reagan and trickle-down economics and all that. And in the last 40 years, we've transferred trillions of dollars worth of wealth from the bottom 90% of our population to the top 1%. I mean, we have some billionaires worth more than some countries today. They're funding their own space programs. The government can't even fund their own. We have to hire the Russians to take us to the space station. Somewhere John Kennedy's rolling over in his grave, right? So, but, then we wonder why we can't fix roads or widen our interstates and all this. But it takes money to do all that. Back in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s, when we built the interstate system and we funded our space programs, things like that, we built these big infrastructure projects. I mean, we were the envy of the world with what we were doing in this country, and we can't afford to even keep up the roads anymore.
No.
So we need to get back to a tax system that keeps money at our level, that we're the people that make the economy go. It's not the billionaires. They're not the ones that spend the money. We are a an economy that runs on people spending money.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what we are, and we spend a lot more money than the billionaires do. And I mean, how many yachts can they buy? People down here are the ones that build the houses. We're the ones that make the housing market go. We're the ones that make the automobile industry go. We're the ones that keep the grocery stores in business and the gas stations and the companies that build the campers and the boats and all the the other things that we do for recreation. So we're the ones that make the economy roll, and we get taxed and taxed. And they say, well, poor people don't pay. Well, poor people pay tax. May just not be income tax, but they pay all the other taxes.
Sales
They pay
tax,
all the sales
everything.
taxes.
You bet.
If they're lucky enough to own some property, they pay that, all that. So they pay taxes, but and they say, somebody just told me that, well, the rich pay 40% of the taxes. I said, but they're getting 80% of the money. That's why these people are worth billions and billions of dollars. But the whole system has been set up to avoid taxes on certain types of income.
Sure.
They don't get their income from salaries and wages and things like we do.
No.
That's easy to tax. Okay. But, they trade in stocks and shares and all this stuff. And, that stuff doesn't get taxed the same way. A lot of your CEOs, they get a salary up to $1 million because after that, the tax system changes. So they get rewarded in shares of company. And their compensation is based a lot on how those shares perform. So in the past, when they'd got a tax break, they would spend that money to upgrade the business, just like farmers do. That's what I used to do. If I, made more money, then I upgraded machinery or whatever, put more lime on for the year so I could write that expense off.
Sell your cattle, you bought new, and replace and start
so,
again.
I mean, it's just a way to keep your tax bill down, but also improve your business. Well, now we've gotten to the point where these CEOs and all that, they buy shares of the company back because that increases the cost, so it increases their compensation, and then also pay the shareholders more money, and all those people are wealthy.
And the thing is, more of them are getting options now than they are getting shares because options are a trickle of the value of what a stock is. It just gives you until a certain date to purchase that stock. But let's say the stock's worth $85, but you have 30 days to buy it at 27 cents.
Yeah.
And that's the options they're getting. Well, what are you going to do come 30 days in? Why wouldn't you buy it at 27 cents if it's worth $85?
That's right. That's right.
That's
how much is the value worth then, like a capital gains? You bought it at 27 cents, it's $85.
But it's an option, so it's valued at $85 is what you get it then. See, options, you don't pay what you actually paid.
Right.
So there's no, even a capital gain there, which would be huge, is nothing. It's only $85. So,
I said it's all rigged to benefit the wealthy.
Yeah.
So it's, but we need to change that. Like I said, back when we were building the interstate system and all that, we had a progressive tax rate, and a lot of people don't really understand how that works. Right now, the top rate is 37%. Back in Eisenhower's day, it was 92.
I was going to say.
That's when we built the interstate. And, they don't pay 92% of their income, to taxes. That's not the way it works. Once they reach a certain level.
Sure.
And they'd have to be multi-millionaires to reach that level to pay, and, on that 92%.
Sure, after their deductions and
Right.
things of that nature. It's where their taxable income is, not their gross income.
But a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's just, well, you're going to tax them 50% on their income or 70% on their income, and it doesn't work out. It's a tiered system. You have to hit a certain income level. You pay the same taxes as everybody else until you hit $50,000, and then from 50 to 80,000, you pay another tax, and 80 to 100, you step up to that next bracket.
Yep.
It's just incremental.
Yeah.
And so they're not paying that on everything.
Yeah, I remember looking at my mom and dad's tax return, or seeing the tax book come in, and back in the '60s, and it said 70% if you made $100,000. I mean, holy cow! Why am I working? I'm giving it to the government. But that was taxable income after the fact and everything. So, but that was a little fact I didn't understand back in the '60s.
And it's confusing, but
it is.
But that is how we paid. For all the infrastructure and all the things, our military and all these things that we have, that's how we paid for it. But if there's no money down here, it's hard to pay for these things. And it's been a big deal because the infrastructure bill that was passed has pumped $400 million into this district, and over $200 million of it went into my county, Jefferson County, because they're expanding 55 to 6 lanes from Highway 67 all the way to Peevely, which is a few miles. But there's the new bridge at Chester. that's going across from Perry County. They got $127 million for that. So
Doesn't leave much.
Yeah, so I mean, it's paying. I mean, some other counties got 12 or 13 million and all that. So, but that's what you do. And if you want these infrastructure improvements, you invest. And the thing is, most of those are good jobs. A lot of them are union jobs. They pay well. So those people are spending money. They're making good money, these workers. So they go out in their communities and spend money. So the small businesses and all that reap the benefits. They pay taxes.
Sure.
And, it's just a win-win. When you spend money in the communities, everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Everybody gets to benefit from that.
All right, sir, we're closing in on our time. What do you got planned for this week? Are you going to be somewhere local, have another meet and greet or a little discussion somewhere?
Well, a lot of things going on. I will be in West Plains on Thursday, going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and then going to meet with the fellow that owns the old Lincoln School that they're rehabbing.
Okay.
Going to learn a little bit about the history of that. As a history major in college, it's very interesting to me. But we'll be in Poplar Bluff, have a radio interview in Sykeston on Friday. Things I've got to be in Ironton, I think, on Wednesday. To tour a facility, so it's just one thing after another, yeah.
And you still have people wanting your yard signs and
right,
things of that nature.
Yeah, I'll be out delivering
so if
some
people
today.
would want that, how do they get in touch with you to get those
well,
signs?
the best way is
when?
go to my website, which is FDRII4mo.com, and you can click on a link there that will take you to a place where you can sign up for a sign or to volunteer or whatever. So that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, very good. We want to thank you for coming in. Again, this is a paid political interview with Franklin Delano Roth, better known as Denny. So when you see him out and you see that cowboy hat, just say, hey, Denny. He is the treasurer for his committee, and we do thank him again for spending. We'll see you next Monday again, won't we?
Right.
Well, we really do appreciate that. Wish you the best of luck. Safe travels, my friend, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you. At KSMO Radio, we invite you to stay right